Welcome to the Love Dog Podcast. I'm your co-host, Raina Butcher, here with our host, Dr. Sarah Hensley.
Hello.
Hello. Before we get started, of course, we want to thank our sponsor of this podcast, Cozy Earth. And oh my gosh, since I have gotten my sheets, I am sleeping so much better.
Their sheets are honestly amazing.
They are.
They're so soft.
They have a 10-year warranty, so they never peel. Right?
Yeah, which that's amazing.
That's
how much
amazing.
they believe in their products.
Yes.
They're willing to give a 10-year guarantee.
And I've noticed, the biggest thing I've noticed is that I'm not as hot.
Yeah, they're really great at regulating temperature.
Yes.
Which is something that I struggle with. Perimenopause does not help that.
I know, right? It's like now that we're in our 40s, hot flashes are coming at night.
Yeah, at night.
And Cozy Earth is making it so much easier on us 40-something-year-old women.
Yes, they feel so luxurious. It's just very luxury, feeling. Yeah, when getting into your bed.
When I get into my bed at night, I'm like, oh, it's like this breath of fresh air that Cozy Earth gives me.
Absolutely.
So they're offering a 40% discount code, discount code LoveDoc at purchase. Mm-hmm. And you can visit them at cozyearth.com for that purchase. And if you get a post survey and mention that you heard about Cozy Earth from this podcast, they will send you a free pair of socks too.
What?
Yes.
Hey man, I'm going to get me some of those socks because if they're anything like their sheets, they're going to be amazing.
And they sell pajamas. I mean, they sell the whole 9 yards. So
amazing.
I'm going to have to check them out too, a little bit deeper than just the sheets. So check them out, and thank you to Cozy Earth.
Thank you, Cozy Earth.
So episode 18.
Yes.
I'm excited about this one.
Yeah.
Which is how to handle the haters.
Okay, let's talk about it. Because
you're better at it than me.
Well, you can't build a large platform and not have people hate on you.
Yeah.
It's impossible. There is no way to please everyone. And we decided to have this topic today because we got a review on our podcast that was a little bit of a hater.
It was. And I'll be honest, like, it hurt my feelings. And I try.
It did not hurt my feelings.
I know. You have more practice than me. I'm new at this. So, but it did. It hurt my feelings. And I after I read it, I kind of gave it the Trump face, and but then I sat there and I was like.
And that is not an opinion about Donald Trump.
No, that is not. Let me be clear. That is not. It's just, everybody knows the Trump face. It's just a reference to his, and that's kind of what my reaction was. But then I sat there and I thought about it. And the reason why I was hurt by it is because I don't care what you say about me, but you start saying something about somebody I love, then it hurts, right? So they made, he or she, I don't know what their gender was, but of course they made comments about you. And then they made a comment about my husband, which...
You don't go there, okay?
No,
you don't talk about our family.
And I know that I've been candid.
But that's part of our platform.
Right.
Part of our platform. I built this entire platform based on, yes, my education, but also my personal experiences overcoming trauma and my own personal romantic relationships and what I learned the hard way.
Right.
And I feel like I did the work so that you don't have to.
Right.
You don't have to flounder in your relational trauma because I already did that for you. And then I created a platform with the tools that will absolutely help you heal from your relational trauma.
It's your mission. It's your calling.
It's my calling. And so, when you go after people that we love, that we talk about in these experiences, it does affect us personally.
It hurts.
It's hard to not take it personally.
Well, because like I told you, because again, and it's referenced to one of the first or second episodes that we did where I talked about, the ongoing conflict that Josh and I've had, over the course of our relationship. And it's the same fight.
Yeah.
And usually, and I think I prefaced it with this, we haven't had the fight in a long time, but every time we would, there was always alcohol involved. Not that that's an excuse, but there was always alcohol involved. And so it was I never wanted to give off that my husband was a jealous husband. Because he's not at all.
He's such a good dude.
All. He is cool as a freaking cucumber. He is awesome. He is the person that helps regulate me.
Yeah.
He is the person
he's
that helps.
Born secure. Yeah. We've talked about that.
Yeah. He's the person that talks me off the ledge. He is not a jealous husband. No. It's just that I feel like alcohol amplifies at times some of his insecurities.
For sure. I mean, they call it spirits for a reason. Like, it brings out like the devil in you, you know? Right. And so I think I would like to just address the very mean-ish
We comment. Can read it if y'all want us to.
Okay, so like the preface of the whole review was that we focus too much on heterosexual relationships and that we don't talk about gender and we don't talk about non-heterosexual relationships a lot. And here's the thing. The reason that we don't talk about those things is not because we're not accepting of them. We welcome them. Yeah. We love everybody. I mean, I take that seriously. When Jesus said, love thy neighbor, I take that seriously. That means my gay neighbor, my transgendered neighbor, everybody, right? But attachment style has nothing to do with gender or the type of relationship you're with. It is static and steady across relationships and gender. Right. So a dismissive avoidant female is going to act very, very, very similar to a dismissive avoidant male.
Whether she's married to a male or a female, too.
I have had, wonderful couples, a lesbian couple that I can think about off the top of my head that I've worked with for, on and off for a couple of years now, where they come in for a refresher session every now and then.
I coached a lesbian couple as well.
And, they're fabulous.
And
they're amazing.
They're
and the attachment dynamic is exactly the same.
Right.
As if they were, they were both FA.
Right.
And so it was like, okay, 2 FAs is going to be the same in a lesbian couple as it's going to be in a heterosexual couple. So I don't feel the need to make that differentiation because there's no difference.
Right.
That's why attachment theory is the bomb. Right? We don't have to get into that.
And now, and as I sit here, I kind of get upset because I'm like, this is the problem. It's stuff like that forces people to bring up the issue when it was never an issue to begin with,
it's
right?
Not an issue.
We've never, yes, we talk about our heterosexual relationships because this is a podcast where we're talking about personal experiences and we're heterosexual women. So, of course, we're going to pull in from our own personal experiences through that lens, but we welcome anyone and anyone.
Yeah, I say there's only 2 types of people I wouldn't feel comfortable working with. The Satanist, because that is in direct contradiction to my Christian beliefs, and polyamorous couples, just because I don't know much about polyamory.
Right.
And I chose not to study it. It was not something that came up a lot in my field of study.
And talk about that for people who don't know what that is.
That is when you are in a exclusive relationship with more than one person. Right. So you're in like a throuple, right, where there's like 3 people. I just don't have enough knowledge to help those individuals. So I wouldn't feel like I would be doing them a service.
I have an opinion.
Right? Yeah, my personal opinion is good luck.
Yeah, that doesn't work.
That's my personal opinion. But I honestly don't have enough experience, and I'm just not here to judge. If that works for you, great, but I'm probably not the provider that's going to be able to give you the best.
Let me reword that. I don't want to say that doesn't work, because sometimes maybe it does work for people. It just wouldn't work for me. Yeah. Because I ain't about sharing my husband, okay?
To the no.
So.
And the thing, and I think that this person that left the review really went in depth about us having some Christian viewpoints. And here's what I'll say about that. I apologize none for my faith. God put me here. God saved me from the absolute pit of hell. The devastation and trauma I experienced in my life, I would not have been able to get over. I probably would have committed suicide had God not found me and brought me out of the pit of hell.
And continues to.
And continues to bless me and continues to glorify my work and has put this calling on my life that I wholeheartedly believe my life's mission is to help people love in a way that makes God proud.
Right.
Right? Now, does that mean that if you work with me, we have to talk about Christian things? No.
Right.
I have all the psychology in the world for anybody of any other faith or no faith.
And you make that really clear even on your website, that you have a faith perspective and you have a very secular perspective, and it's really up to your client.
It's up to the client.
Which direction they want to go.
Right. And I've had plenty of clients say, you know what? I'm a strong Christian. I want to know the spiritual side of this. Because really what I'm able to give is this merging of science and faith. Instead of science contradicting faith, what I've found is that science actually runs extremely parallel to what scripture says, right? Like, let's just take, the metacognitive work that I teach. Well, 2 Corinthians 10:5 says that we demolish every pretense that, goes against the word of God, and we take captive every thought and make it obedient to Christ. Well, the metacognitive tools that I teach are all about thought capturing and thought reframing and making them true and making them productive. And so, God tells us to monitor our thoughts. And it just happens to be that psychologists think that that's a huge way to start to regulate your nervous system and to start to become more secure in your attachment.
And that's exactly how you handle the haters. It's right there through that description, right?
Right.
And I'll admit, like, again, back to this one review, and I know you have a ton of examples, right?
So many.
Yeah.
So many.
But, I kind of had to, like, sit back and tell myself, hey, it's one person, right? It's one person. But I never, like I told you, I never want to give the indication even to one single soul in this universe that my husband is not the most amazing person on the face of the planet.
Yeah.
Because in my eyes, he is.
For sure.
He is. And so I hate that I depicted in any way, shape, or form that he was jealous or that he was making the decision for me not to have a baby. Like, that's what he or she said in this review too, like something about like and then the friend who has all the red flaggy anecdotes about her jealous husband and how he's controlling her whether to have a baby or not. And I was like, wait, what? No. That is not like the picture that I'm trying to paint of my husband at all.
And I think that brings up a really good point about, one, a lot of haters, a lot of it is ignorance.
Yeah.
Right? It's ignorance. Like, they have a limited amount of
information. It's a very narrow lens.
They have, like, some snippets of what you said, and then they can take it through their own lens, right? Yeah. A lot of hate is just ignorance. I mean, I have people stop by my platform all the time. Let's say I do a video on how DAs are somehow problematic in their relationships, because they are, right? I will inevitably get a few people being like, you always hate on the DA. Then I'll make a video giving empathy to the DA and trying to explain to people how their trauma response is not necessarily any better or worse than anyone else's trauma response. It's still a trauma response. And then I'll get somebody saying, they're awful people, you give them way too much credit. You're giving them a pass. Yeah. So I'm not going to be able to please everybody. That's right. I just have to show up authentic. And what I have learned in my journey is that showing up authentic in your life, and especially in your relationships, is the most regulating thing you can do for your nervous system. And a regulated nervous system is the key to secure attachment. But we allow people to dysregulate us because we allow their opinions to hold so much weight. And I always think about, I can't remember who said it, so I'm sorry, I'm not trying to steal your quote, whoever said this. Somebody else said it, not me. But it's like the funeral analogy. Like, if they wouldn't show up to your funeral, you shouldn't care what they have to say. Yeah. Right? If they wouldn't grieve your death, then they shouldn't matter to you. And so in my life, my circle is so small. I have my family, and I have a big family because we have 4 children. My husband is my best friend. You're my other best friend. And that's it. Yeah. That's pretty much it. Yeah. And is that the most peaceful, happy place to be in my life that I've ever experienced? Yes. I have absolutely no problems with not having a big friend group. Well, I don't have time for a lot of friends. I don't have time. And I've lost friends in this journey.
Well, and that's what I was going to say. The reason why, I think as we get older and reach these new levels of consciousness and stop being these perpetual people pleasers and actually learn how to set boundaries, that starts to make other people feel really uncomfortable.
Yeah, it does.
And that's when your circle gets smaller.
It is.
And that's why it's okay.
And I have 2 good friends in the last 2 years that I set boundaries with. And they did not take it well because their behavior wasn't okay. Right. And it was hurting me. And I tried to state that in the most respectful, loving, kind way possible. But I had to set those boundaries, and they did not respond well to those boundaries. Because here's the thing. People don't respond well to boundaries when they can't handle the truth about their own behavior and when they can't take accountability for their own behavior. And when you have to say, your behavior is hurting me, therefore I have to draw this line and I have to protect myself from your behavior. then, they're not going to like that because their inability to go, oh, what could I have done and how could I have impacted someone else is limited.
It's a reflection they're not ready to see.
Exactly. And this is where I think it's really important to point out that secure people focus on the impact that they have on others and not their intentions. And insecure people focus on their intentions, not their impact. And so I think this is important in relationships too, when you're in a disagreement or an argument with somebody that you love and that you care about. When you go in immediately focusing in on your intentions, you become really defensive. Well, I didn't intend for it to sound that way. I didn't intend to hurt you, so therefore you shouldn't be hurt.
Right.
That's not the way we have to go about things. We have to focus on how did I impact you first, and let's soothe that, and then we can talk about what the intentions were behind those things, right? And I always give this analogy of like, if you accidentally hit someone with your car, which would be horrible. I hope that never happens to anybody. And somebody's laying on the ground bleeding, are you going to run up to him and go, I didn't mean to hit you.
Right.
I'm so sorry I hit you. Right. Or are you going to call 911 and focus on the impact and their wounds?
Right.
Right. And caring and soothing for them from the impact.
It's a great analogy. And we focus so much on the physical impact, but never really the emotional impact that we have on others.
That's right. And so I'm not saying that intention doesn't matter. I mean, obviously, if you maliciously hit them, that's like could be murder one versus like manslaughter if it was an accident. And intention does matter, but what I'm saying in the immediacy of fixing an issue with someone that comes up, focusing on impact first and taking accountability for how you impacted them, regardless if you agree that they should have had that impact, right? Or that they should have interpreted it in the way that they did, it doesn't matter. The fact of the matter is you hurt someone.
That's right.
And so are you going to deal with that problem by shoving in their face what your intention was, which doesn't soothe the impact? Or are you going to jump in and say, let me take care of how I impacted you first and let me reassure you and soothe you. And then when we're calm and we're regulated, we can focus more on what the actual intention was and how we can maybe prevent this from happening again.
Yeah. This is why when I answer some of your messages, I have to sit back and say, WWSD. What would Sarah do? Because, I mean, we've talked about this. I don't know. I don't know if it's just the redneck in me. Like, I got a little red in me. So, like, I get really, like, I mean, I'll get on a soapbox when people say specific things. Like, if it's a really ignorant hater. Like, here's what I'll say about the review on the podcast. Not all of it was bad. Like he or she even said, like, there was some really great information and, I'd listened to the first couple episodes and it was really great. And then, from there it went downhill. So like there was some positive feedback, but like the really, really bad comments that are just hateful and mean and somebody like that's just hiding behind a screen, just trying to stir the pot, sort of. That's when I'm like, oh, no, and then I'll like, I really have to take a step back. I really do.
And here's how I think about things. It takes like time out of someone's day to stop and write a mean comment.
Yeah.
I get mean comments on all my videos all the time.
Yeah.
Occasionally, and then the only thing that really bothers me, like if it's ignorant, I don't care. But like malicious intent does bother me.
Yeah.
Because that's the devil. That's evil. Like malicious intent does not come from God. It is not something that I can take and use to have constructive feedback to grow and to, because I don't pretend that I know everything. I welcome feedback. Sure. Even if it's not something that I love, it allows me to think and to grow and to consider, right? Because I don't know everything.
Right.
And I don't pretend to know everything. And I know I'm not going to be pleasing to everyone. And so if there's something that I'm doing that is not pleasing to, a large majority of people, and they're not going to be therefore able to get the value out of what I'm saying, I want to use that feedback and I want to make changes and I want to grow. My whole freaking platform is about growth and development, right? I'm open to that, obviously. But when there's something that's malicious intent, like the guy who's like, you need a nose job, or, you're fat, or you're ugly, or you're stupid, or
your husband must be miserable being married to you.
Yeah.
Or like and, just mean stuff.
Oh, if you say something about my husband on my TikTok, He's going to come for you.
Oh, yeah, he will.
He will come for you, and he will come for you hard, because there is nobody on this earth that is more defensive of me than my husband, and that's something that I love.
That's the way it should be.
Because, let me tell you, he's a Purple Heart combat wounded veteran who served in Iraq and Afghanistan, and he's heavily decorated military. He served our country proudly, and he has more trauma from the military and from life in general, and he has thrived, and he is one of the most steadfast, loving, mature, capable human beings on this planet. And we are so happy that if you mess with me, you've messed with him.
Yeah.
And he's like, I ain't got no platform. I'm a retired veteran.
Right. I'm coming for you.
Yeah. He's like, I don't have a platform.
Right.
I don't have to be worried about nothing, because I've got money for the rest of my life.
Right.
And if you come for her, you're coming for me.
Yeah. And I think, again, that's why I was so hurt by the comment, because I was like, gosh, even if I gave the indication in just one person's mind that Josh is like this terrible person. Like, I don't have, like, he's so awesome. He's the best partner I could have ever wished for.
Yeah.
Ever wished for. I mean, Josh exceeds my expectations. Not to like, and we're not trying to sit here and be like, oh, I mean, we talk about how great our husbands are all the time, but it's because they are.
But we wouldn't have gotten those husbands if we hadn't have done the work.
That's right.
And that's why we're here talking about it. We're not just sitting here like, oh, we have great husbands and we're amazing.
Right.
We used to be crappy at relationships, and then we did the healing work. And because we did the healing work, we attracted someone else who was also healed.
That's right. Yeah.
Because secure always attracts secure.
And that's all we want for everybody else.
That's all we want.
Whether you're transgender, homosexual, heterosexual, we don't care. We want everyone to have healthy love.
One of my favorite clients of all time was a beautiful transgender man.
Yeah. Yeah. You've talked about it.
Yeah. And he has left a testimonial on my website. I don't know if he reveals in that. I can't remember if he reveals in that testimonial that he's transgender. But he was one of the most open and vulnerable people who truly wanted to do the work that I've probably ever seen.
Yeah.
And I didn't have to talk to him about any dynamics of being transgender, because the focus was on attachment. And his attachment was going to be the same whether he ever transitioned or not in his life. And he did choose to transition. And at the end of the day, if that's what makes him happy, who am I to judge, right?
Right.
I live my life according to the way I think I should live my life. And I think other people should live their lives, as long as you're not hurting anyone.
That's right.
According to how they think they should live their lives. And how I live my life is choosing to talk about my own personal experiences as well as my own personal faith. And if that doesn't jive with someone, if somebody, hears me talking about Jesus and they're like, I don't want to hear about Jesus, then you can turn it off.
That's
you
right.
can just hit a button.
That's right.
Just hit a button and go somewhere else. That's fine. But God has called me to do what he asked, which is to speak to the nations. That is actually biblical, to speak to the nations. And I am going to give God all the glory for everything that I have. Everything that he has given me is all because of him. He led me to the tools. He was part of the tools.
Right.
And my life transformed. I mean, I am a fundamentally different human being 100%. Than I was. And you knew me on both sides.
Yeah, I have.
You knew me as broken, insecure, obsessive, anxious Sarah.
Yeah.
And then you've known me as secure, healthy, faithful, loving, easygoing Sarah.
Night and day.
And I mean,
night and day.
and so when people hate from a healthy and healed perspective, you have to ask yourself the question, why does this matter so much to me?
Yeah.
Why does it matter so much to me that somebody that knows nothing about my life, somebody that does not pay my bills, somebody that does not walk in my shoes, says about me?
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, I don't care. Now, I want to go back to malicious intent. I don't like malicious intent.
Yeah.
And one of the most recent traumas, I should say a recent trauma, I don't have a lot of recent traumas. I had actually 3 very blissful years of no traumatization whatsoever until somebody decided to be extremely malicious towards my family, openly, in bad faith, malicious, to hurt me, to hurt my children, to hurt my husband. And that wasn't okay. And I did regress a little bit. And we talked about that. You noticed it.
Yeah.
And you were honest with me. You're like, you're backsliding.
Yeah.
You got to go back to square one. And I did. I had to go back to square one. And even for someone who's done years and years of healing work, and I had to go back to square one. I mean, it was a humbling experience.
Yeah. And and I think too, like, regression isn't always a bad thing, right? Because it kind of takes you back to, it reminds you what it is that you really need. And I think, I mean, even on the way here, we were talking about it. You were like, God pulled me out once again.
Immediately. I'll tell you what, and this was just a couple of weeks ago. Mm-hmm. My rumination was out of control.
It was bad. Mm-hmm.
It was out of control. Mm-hmm. Because it's not just this one-time thing that happened. There's ongoing legal consequences to what happened.
Yeah.
So there's court appearances. So there's lots of being immersed in this thing. Right. So it's not something that I can ever really feel like I can step away from. Right. But like my part is kind of over and my husband's part is taking over. Ongoing. And I had a very honest conversation with him where I said, I have to pull back from this. I have to pull back from thinking about this. I have to pull back from, because I am very much a better paperwork person than my husband. So like all the paperwork, I was keeping track of it. I was organizing it. I was keeping track of it. I was doing the admin work. And I looked at him and I said, I think the admin work is over. I think it's as organized as it can be. You have to take it from here.
That's why I told you,
because I can't do it.
You've done everything that you could possibly do,
and now it is literally out of my hands. It's in the hands of
others,
of attorneys and judges.
You have to trust, to a certain degree.
Yeah, and listen, when it gets in the hands of those other people, you have no control.
That's where your faith comes in,
and that is where my faith was. I mean, the devil had me bad for a few weeks. Bad. Like, I thought, how can someone do this to another person and there is no consequence? No consequence. And not just do it, but continuing to do it. Like, there's ongoing malicious behavior. And it's just one of those things where you think, like, how is there? It
makes you question,
Well, because when things happen in your life that fundamentally disrupt the foundations of your life, it is such a huge trauma, right? It's the same as if you found out your husband was having an affair, and I've been there too. And a lot of times when those situations happen, we stay in denial because we know that if we face that truth head on, the structure of our life is just demolished, right? Nothing that we know to be true is then true anymore, right? And that was kind of what happened here.
Yep.
And so luckily, this wasn't any issue between my husband and I. My husband and I are rock solid. He didn't do anything wrong. I didn't do anything wrong. Nobody that was involved in this, except the malicious person, did anything wrong. But the aftermath of somebody who is ongoing in terms of hurting you is hard to cope with.
It is, yeah.
And that's so much different than someone saying something ugly about you on the internet.
Right, that you don't ever have to think about again or come into contact with again.
No. Yeah. And so, I would love to talk. We're going to have, Dana Doswell on coming up, which I'm so excited about.
Yeah.
She's an expert in nervous system regulation. She's an expert in trauma. And, I know what retraumatization does to the brain. But I had to, for my own just sanity, I had to look it up.
Right.
And it was like, Yep. Check. Yeah. That's what was happening to me. And so I had to pretend like I was back there years and years and years ago when my ex died and my mom had pancreatic cancer and my DA couldn't deal with it. And I lost all my attachments in like a day, right?
Yeah.
And it was like, what did I do? I went back to my faith. But what my husband did, which was what was really cool, is he recognizes, he's like, I'm your covering. I'm actually responsible for you spiritually. And now that I see that you're kind of spiraling, I have to step in on your behalf and intercede on your behalf. And he did. And it grounded me enough to then grab those tools right back and start using them over and over and over again. And it was like daily nervous system work. Daily. I'm still daily and guys, doing my nervous system work.
That's what partners are for.
Yeah.
Not to keep going back here, but again, that was another thing that the review said was that he or she didn't like how you emphasized the importance of a man being the leader in a family.
Can I say something?
You can say whatever you want.
Because it's my platform. Guess what, guys? This is my platform. that I made based on the education that I worked to pay for.
Right. Years and years.
Years and years of education. I went to school for 9 years that I paid for. I worked. I had a job to pay for that education and scholarships. And the trauma that I experienced. So whatever I want to say,
you can say it.
I can say it. And you know how wonderful that feels?
And that's freeing. That's peace.
Men should be leaders of their wives. I'll say it again. Men should be leaders of their wives. But if you are a crappy and controlling and awful leader, you will have an awful marriage.
What is so wrong with that?
I want to be led. Do you know what I want? I don't want to think.
I know. I don't either.
I think all day.
Right.
I have to think so critically about how to help people, and I hear all day about their traumas, and I love my work. I love it. But at the end of the day, do you think I want to make one decision?
Right.
No. I want you to plan the date. I want you to take me there. I want you to hold my hand. I want to be able to look up at the clouds. I don't want to have to know where I'm
equals.
Going. No.
And I mean, I know this is a very heterosexual reference that she's making. So I'll just ask, like, I'll play devil's advocate in the sense of, say it was a homosexual relationship with 2 males or 2 females, then who leads then?
Well, I mean, I would say it was the person who has more masculine energy.
Yeah.
You know? Whoever feels most comfortable in that role, right?
Yeah.
Because I think regardless, if we have 2 women, there's going to be some dynamic. Now, is there going to be maybe a more shared dynamic of certain type, where there's a little bit more of a shared dynamic? Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Right.
I've never been a lesbian.
Right.
I don't know.
Right.
But I've worked with lesbian couples through the lens of attachment theory, and I've been able to fix their freaking relationships.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm going to still bank on the fact that attachment theory reaches beyond heterosexual relationships.
Masculine, feminine energy.
It goes beyond masculine, feminine energy.
Yeah.
Right?
It does.
In my specific marriage and in heterosexual relationships where there is a very obvious masculine, feminine role, then I do think being led in a marriage is so freeing because feminine energy is to receive. And I'm tired and I don't want to make a lot of mental decisions.
I don't either.
I don't. I like it when my husband chooses things.
Me too.
But here's why it works. My husband pays attention to me and he loves me and he wants me to be happy. So guess what kinds of decisions he makes? Ones that he knows are going to make me happy.
Right.
And then when I respond to that with, oh my gosh, this was the best. Thank you so much. I love you so much. He feels like a freaking superhero.
Yeah.
He can puff out his chest and hold his head high and feel like, yeah, I make my woman happy.
That's right.
I satisfy my woman in all areas.
I mean, Josh he's had to remind me a few times, like, babe, you're not in this alone. Like, we do this together. I'm here. Lots of things when it comes to John Paul specifically. This was something he said as he was leaving for work last night because I needed to have a conversation with John Paul. He was like, you don't have to do this alone. I'm here. I'm here with you. And that feels good because it's not just a sigh of relief. It's safety.
It is safety. It is safety. And at the end of the day, that's all anybody wants.
That's it.
If you're falling in love, if you're falling in the arms of whomever.
Right. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
You just want to feel emotionally safe.
You just want to feel emotionally safe.
When it comes to the hard things in life.
Can be created in any relationship dynamic. I'm going to just say I don't know about polyamory because I just don't know.
Right.
And I'm just going to leave that over here as I'm ignorant to that. Right. But in terms of, I've worked with plenty of gay couples. I've worked with many transgendered individuals who are beautiful, wonderful people. And, whether you agree with their personal decisions or not, at the end of the day, we're all human. And I'm a firm believer that God is going to sort everything out.
That's right.
Right. God's going to sort it all out. It's not my job to sort it out.
All right. And ultimately we're all searching to love and to be loved.
Absolutely.
Regardless of where you choose.
And I choose to not be hateful.
Right.
I choose to not be hateful.
Just be kind.
Just be kind. Just be loving. And at the end of the day, that is Jesus' biggest commandment.
Yeah, God is love.
God is love.
It sums up God in one word.
And when I didn't have a lot of faith, I didn't know that God was love.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm not saying that God accepts everything we do.
Right. We have free will.
And sometimes we hurt other people, or we act maliciously, or we do other things.
We're all sinners.
Right? We're all sinners. At the end of the day, though, I believe in a just God, a sovereign God, a loving God.
He's not a punishing God.
He's not a punishing God. And I only have to worry about me, because guess what? I'm going to be standing before God, and I'm going to have to, be accountable for my life.
That's right.
I don't have to be accountable to God for your life. I don't have to be accountable to God for anyone else's life but my own. So why am I going to try to impact someone else's decision making in their own love life?
That's
right, in terms of who they choose to love. I'm not going to do that.
All you're going to help them with is certain behaviors that maybe
I'm going to help them become securely attached, and they can be securely attached to whoever they want to be.
Right. That's exactly right.
At the end of the day.
Hopefully you're just securely attached to you yourself, and I, and whoever it is that you believe in, that's a higher power. I mean, but ultimately, I mean, that's, again, it is your mission. It's why you're here.
Right. And so if there's people that, there are going to be people that disagree with me. There are going to be people that are like, I don't want to hear about Jesus.
But what would they have you talk about then? Like, that's my question. That's my question to Mr. and Mrs. Reviewer. What would you have us talk about if we can't pull from personal experience, our own morals?
The majority of my clients are heterosexual.
Yeah.
But that's just because that's how the chips fall.
Right.
Right? It doesn't mean, this is not because I'm not welcoming to anyone.
Right.
And
you've made that clear that you are.
I've tried to make that uber clear. Satanists, sorry. You're going to have to go worship Satan somewhere else, because I don't want demons around me.
Yeah.
But other than that, no faith, all faiths come in. Buddhist, Hindu, come on in. And we'll talk about psychology.
That's right. And I know you had another circumstance, and I don't know if you want to talk about it or not, the TikTok circumstance that really, like,
oh gosh, I've tried to put it out of my mind. I've tried.
I'll
talk about it.
I'll talk about it. I mean, that one was probably, in terms of haters, like a whole new level of malicious intent, threatening stuff.
So I'll just talk about it like this. I actually did not know that there was this Gen X, Gen Z war going on. I was clueless. No idea.
Yeah.
No clue. This was even before Eminem dropped his album with the Gen Z Me Bruh and all that. And I was just making this video just reflecting on my childhood.
Right.
Because I have a Gen X
on
brother.
The cusp
I'm the oldest millennial, right? So Gen X is 1981 is the cutoff, and I was born in 1982. So I was raised as a Gen X kid.
Right.
How were we raised? With zero oversight. Right?
Yeah.
And so I was just actually making this video, and this was on a personal TikTok account that I had created, of just like, this is what a Gen X childhood was like. And I think the point of it was to talk about, like, the lack of emotional attunement that we received, and that, like, we were just feral children.
Right.
We were just legit feral children out there running around. Nobody knew what we were doing. Nobody cared what we were doing.
Like, fend for yourself.
I mean, there was literally a commercial that would come on at 10 p.m. to remind parents, do you know where your kids are?
Yeah.
Can you imagine? And
now we have
today?
App 360.
We're like strapping Apple AirTags on them, right? Or like, and tracking them on our phones.
Right.
And like, don't go down the street, and I'm going to watch you walk down there. Yeah. I know you're 10, but I'm going to walk you.
Literally, my caption on the 360 app is, I'm watching you. Just to kind of like, it's just this ongoing joke that we have. But yes, my parents never knew where I was.
And then what ended up happening is Gen Z got really
upset.
They got really mad. Like, oh, you think you're better than us because you had this feral childhood? Like, I'm going to show you.
Right.
So they took the sound that I made. That video got 5 million views, and they replicated it in the meanest, most
really mean,
horrendous
Some
ways.
of them were funny. Like, I didn't, like today when I was talking about the parody that I came across.
Well, here's what I did. I started getting infiltrated.
All right. With threats and...
Well, just... then they're dumb. Like, a lot of it was so dumb. But, like, it got infiltrated to the point where I was just like, that account was no longer usable. Because any video that I made, it was going to be Gen Z me bruh, Gen Z me bruh, Gen Z me bruh in the comments. Because somehow Gen Z took that video as like some kind of hate against them. When I was just saying, we had a different childhood than Gen Z. That was literally it. But then what ended up, it was just very not it was very coincidental in not a good way. I don't know how to describe it. Because right after I made that video, like the next day is like when Eminem dropped that album.
That is crazy.
So it was like it got lumped into this fake war, right, of Gen Z versus Gen X. And I somehow became the mascot for this fake war. And I didn't even want to be in it. I just wanted to talk about feral children and lack of emotional attunement and how that differed in our experiences growing up. And I thought it was so cool that a lot of Gen Xers were rising up on this app and meeting each other and being like, hey, like we didn't have the internet when we grew up, but now we do. What's up, dude? Oh, I grew up in, this way too. And celebrating just people finding their people.
That's right. And I think every generation has things to offer and has,
So what I ended up doing was I ended up disabling that sound. So anybody that used that sound, which was like millions of people, their videos then were soundless. So joke's on you. Because again, it's my platform, it's my voice. I can control if it's out there or not.
That's right.
Right? So I disabled the sound. And then interestingly enough, that video monetized a lot of money. It's actually made like a ton of money because of this thing. So that was God's haha silver lining, right? Like let me drop a big sum in your bank account because that video got 5 million views. But then what I got to do was disable the sound and I deleted the account. Because I just didn't want to deal with it because I didn't have time. I didn't have time for that, right?
It was too much.
It was too much. It was too immature because, and sorry Gen Z, but like the statistics are real. Like they have the worst mental health of any generation. Like,
well, and they're the first generation to like grow up their entire lives with the internet.
Right. And so, but then it begs the question, who's worse off? Gen X who raised them or the Gen Z who exists? Who's more at fault for this? Because I mean, they would write sentences and I wouldn't understand a single word. A single word.
Like, girl, but I don't know either.
Fries in the bag. Blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, what?
Huh?
And maybe that shows my age, but I don't care.
Right.
I am fine being a 42-year-old woman. I'm going to dress like a 42-year-old woman. I'm going to probably act like a 42-year-old woman. I am not this is the best my life has ever been.
I would never deny my age.
I would never want to go back to my 20s. You couldn't pay me money to go back to my 20s. I was insecure. I was ignorant. I was in terrible relationships. I didn't love myself. I was poor. Why would I want to go back there? No, thank you very much. I'm going to take my happy, healthy marriage, my, very, very successful business. I probably look better than I ever had. I have the money to look better than I ever had. Like, I don't want to be you.
Right. That's not what it was about.
And so at the end of the day, I just deleted the account. And I'll start over. We're actually going to be going on a new venture.
Yes, we are.
So we're going to start a new account.
And
I have almost 1 million social media followers as the dating decoder. So whatever. It's fine.
Hate is going to hate.
All day.
That's right.
All day.
That's
How long has this been? 43 minutes?
So
of talking about the haters? So bottom line is, from a healthy, healed perspective, you just have to ask yourself, why am I letting somebody bother me so much who doesn't live my life? If they do not pay your bills, if they don't sleep in your bed, don't worry about them.
If they wouldn't show up at your funeral.
Screw them.
Yeah, that's right.
Just forget about them. Like literally delete them from your mind if you can. Right? And if you can't delete them from your mind and it's impacting you, then I think you need to think about where are my attachment insecurities at, right? Because that is an attachment insecurity.
For sure.
Right? Because we only need to be worried about our true attachments, right? Like our husband, well, first of all, God, but then, your spouse and your kids.
And self.
Yeah.
And right? I will admit, I may have given the review the Trump face and, ruminated.
And again, that is not a diss on Donald
Trump.
No,
it is not.
We actually had somebody else, like on Instagram, you put a meme about the Trump face.
Yeah, I did like
and
a
it's meant to be neutral. It's meant to be like, he's just a public figure
right.
who makes a certain face, right? And it's just like if he were any other celebrity.
We're not talking about political views here.
We are not talking about political views.
No, we will.
I won't do it.
Idea.
You will not find me opening my mouth and telling you how I feel politically. I mean, most people could probably freaking guess.
Yeah.
But actually, I'm not subscribed to either major political party. So
are you not?
I'm not.
Well,
I'm more. My political views are more independent based.
Yeah.
They're idea based.
Yeah.
If you have a good idea,
right,
I'm for it.
If you have a
crappy idea, I'm not for that.
Yeah, if
right,
you have
in
common
my
sense,
opinion.
I'm for that.
Right. I'm for common sense
and good ideas.
And good ideas.
That's right.
And so, I personally feel like I'm as inclusive as they come.
You are.
So, whatever. That's fine.
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, just be attachment secure. Be happy in your own life. Choose joy.
Yeah, that's right. And like I said, what I was going to say is, I spent a moment thinking about it. And I think I texted you and I was like, well, I just heard this review on our podcast.
And I was like, whatever, I don't care.
Yeah. And I was like, well, I don't ever want to, portray Josh as a jealous husband. He's not like that. Or somebody that's controlling in any way. He's not that either. And Sarah's just like, been there, done that, got the t-shirt.
Shoot, man. If I had to add up all the hateful comments and bad reviews I've gotten, you have to have thick skin in this game.
Yeah.
You cannot put yourself out there on a large platform, right, where your millions of people are watching you and listening to you and not expect people to be hateful.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, people who take time out of their day to be hateful to someone else don't like themselves.
That's right. That's right.
Because they got triggered or they wouldn't take time, right? You only take time when you feel like you have to correct the story because you feel triggered on the inside.
Right.
You don't need to correct the story when you're not triggered on the inside, right? And so that begs the topic of this entire podcast is like, how do you deal with that? Well, you deal with it by letting it go.
Yeah, or you deal with it with kindness.
Kindness.
I mean, that's been my go-to every time that I feel the need to respond to something that maybe is like I said, you get comments sometimes that are somewhat productive and, good feedback. But I always
take that and we use it to grow.
Absolutely. And we want that. We listen, even the person who left the review, we still love you.
For sure.
We love you and we appreciate the feedback because here's the beauty of it. We get to come on here and set the record straight.
We
And
do.
that's a beautiful thing, and I'm thankful for that. And I have major gratitude to be able to have a platform where I can say, oh, no, wait, you got it all wrong. That's not the truth. So let me tell you what the truth is. And the truth is kindness and love. I mean, ultimately, that's
kindness and love.
That's what it's about.
And that's joy. And that is that is my calling.
And that's what we're here to spread.
And that is what I want to help people experience in their romantic relationships.
Yeah.
Because romantic relationships don't have to be so hard and so hurtful.
No, they shouldn't be.
They shouldn't be. And if you've never experienced a relationship where you are truly loved in a secure and healthy and amazing way, then you don't really understand what we're talking about.
Right.
And so many people haven't. And then they get worn down and they don't believe that can exist. But the only way to create that is to create it within yourself first. Right. And then you're going to be attracted to it and it's going to come for you as well. Right? Because I believe heavily that secure attracts secure. It does.
We're
it's like magnets.
Proof. We're living proof of it.
Right.
And so if that's what you're looking for in your life, then please go visit Dr. Hensley at her website, thedatingdecoder.com. Go there, check out all of her services. And of course, if you are liking this content, continue to listen, subscribe, leave a review.
Get yourself some cozier sheets.
Get yourself some cozier sheets.
And don't worry about the haters.
That's right.
Listen, don't worry about them. Just shrug it off. I mean, Taylor Swift it. Shake it off, baby.
Shake it off.
Shake it off, baby.
That's right. And don't forget, you can use promo code LOVEDOC to get 40% off those Cozy Earth sheets. And please keep tuning in. Like, follow, comment, review. And until next time, peace, love, and perspective.